The first ever criminal trial of a former president is now underway.
Jury selection continues today with potential jurors answering dozens of questions. Joining us now is Hofstra University law professor James Sample. Mr. Sample, good to see you as always.
Likewise, good to see you, Chris and Cindy.
So after the first day of jury selection, I want to ask you, for both the prosecution and the defense, where you saw some wins and losses. But I think overall, and let me ask you this question, do you think the rule of law was the big winner yesterday?
I do, actually, Chris. I think that's the right question and the right frame for sure, which is to say that the rule of law, this is where after years, months and months and years, really, of grandstanding and of hypotheticals and speculation, now we enter a courtroom, and now the rules of evidence apply, facts, witnesses, documents, and the rules of procedure. And this is a first. There's no question that there are a lot of unprecedented aspects of this, but Donald Trump is a candidate for president. He's a former president, but he's now a criminal defendant in a New York state court. And that means that different rules apply to him than have ever been applied to him before.
Professor, how long do you think this process will take? A few days, a few weeks?
With respect to jury selection, I think it'll take at least a week, maybe 2 weeks, conceivably even longer. I'd put the ballpark estimate at 2 weeks. It is going to be very, very difficult to select a jury, and it's really to deselect a jury. As Chris said, more than half of the jurors yesterday were dismissed immediately, and they didn't actually seat any jurors because it's very, very difficult to find people who don't have some strong opinions about this very polarizing figure. However, the idea here is that 12 jurors who can be fair and impartial, whatever their prior views of him might be, and who can apply the facts to the law as the judge sets forth, that's the goal.
With former President Trump being such a polarizing figure, how difficult do you think it's going to be to get 12? I mean, this is going to be quite the process, and I know the defense is they just need that one person who they think is going to be that kind of that hardliner who's not going to go with the rest. They just need one, but to be able to get 12, your thoughts on how difficult that process is going to be?
I think, Chris, it's going to be extremely difficult, and I think that you zero in on the right aspect of this, which is everybody knows that Manhattan and the jury pool in Manhattan is made up primarily of people who do not have a favorable view of the former president. But the president, as a criminal defendant, has the benefits and protections that we afford criminal defendants, and one of those is that to get a conviction, it requires unanimity. Just one juror who holds out can result in a mistrial, and in that instance, Donald Trump would effectively prevail, because it's almost inconceivable that the prosecutors, if this were to result in a mistrial, would have the political or even legal will to bring another case.
And from what we know now, how strong is DA Bragg's case against Trump?
I think, Cindy, that the answer is that there's overwhelming evidence, there's overwhelming facts, there's a paper record. The paper record here is extensive, literally signed checks. Michael Cohen went to prison for these very same charges. Michael Cohen was prosecuted by federal prosecutors for essentially the exact same scheme that Donald Trump is charged with, and Michael Cohen said that he was acting in concert with and at the direction of the former president. The documentary evidence here is strong. The witness testimony will be strong. The real question is, will there be 12 jurors who are willing to apply that strong evidence to a figure as much of a celebrity as former President Trump?
Professor, let me ask you what your thoughts are on the judge's decisions yesterday. He seemed to make some decisions that favored both sides. Is that more of a measure of looking ahead of, let's say there is a conviction, and then let's say there is an appeal, to be able to go back up? And again, I know we're putting the cart before the horse here, but on appeal, be able to say, well, you know what, the judge was impartial here. He ruled in favor of both sides throughout this trial.
I think that's absolutely right. I think the rulings yesterday, there were some rulings that were favorable for the prosecution, but there were some rulings that were very, very favorable in terms of evidence that will be excluded from the trial. For example, numerous allegations of sexual misconduct against the former president. Judge Merchan said that with respect to unproven allegations that are rumor and hearsay and just allegation, those are not going to come in. The Access Hollywood tape that we've all seen and heard, that is not going to come in and of itself. Now, there can be testimony about it, perhaps a transcription of it, but some of the evidence that would be very prejudicial against Mr. Trump with respect to some of his past practices is being excluded. And I think that's Judge Merchan trying to take a balanced approach and not viewing this through the lens of being a partisan actor. His responsibility, as you point out, is to have whatever ruling there is in the case upheld on appeal because the law was followed.
All right, Professor Sample, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure we'll be talking to you quite a bit over the next few weeks. We appreciate your time.